welcome to this video. In this video, we're going to be featuring how you can add in assignments and grades into the new PowerSchool Unified Classroom system. So the first thing you're going to want to do is get yourself logged into Unified Classroom. From there, make sure you've selected the class that you wish to add in the assignment and grade to. I'm going to use my homeroom class, for example. And then what you'll want to do is come up over on the right-hand side and look for this plus inside of the circle button. Go ahead and click on that and you'll be taken to the screen where you can work on creating your assignment. So I'm going to say workbook, page 25. I'm not going to put any description or attachments with it. My category, homework. Student type is going to be assignment. I'm not going to have my students submit this work online. And due date. Now you'll notice mine's throwing a little error code down here that it has to be on or before July 27th. Normally this won't happen unless it's close to the end of term, but I'm in a sandbox server to use, for example, so I've got to adjust my date here real quick. I'm just going to make it on July 27th. Now where it says display to students and parents and it says immediately, what that means is as soon as I hit save down here in the lower right hand corner, this assignment becomes active to anyone who can view and is part of my class for gradebooks. So any of my students and parents are able to see that there is an assignment. Now it doesn't automatically fill in a bunch of zeros for that assignment. What it does though is it does put the listing of the assignment into my gradebook and it is visible. So you do have options here. It doesn't have to be immediately. You can say, oh, well, maybe I'm planning this a few days in advance of when I'm actually going to be grading workbook page 25 for my students. So I could say, oh, I want to display this on a specific date, or maybe I don't want to display this until it's due. This allows you to do a lot of nice pre-planning. So if I was maybe a week ahead and putting in what we're going to be doing next week into the gradebook as assignments but not ready to grade yet, I could say, don't show this assignment to students and parents until the due date hits. I'm going to put mine on a specific date and I'm going to make mine publish tomorrow because I need to plan and have a little bit of time to get all my grades in before I want them to be seen. Under score type, you have some different options. I'm going to run with points for this assignment and example, and I'm going to say it's worth 25 points. I'm not going to add any weighting. If I wanted to add extra credit points, maybe there was a bonus point on this assignment, you do have to click this extra points button and indicate how many additional extra points are possible. This tells the system that I have a 25-point assignment, but technically the max score is 26. If you do not do this and you try to put in extra credit points later, the system will tell you you can't put in a value over 25. So you have to make sure to check the extra points box in the case that you want to award extra credit. The box down here, count and final grade, this is your discretion whether or not you're going to count this in the final grade as far as a checkbox. So if you just wanted to log down how students performed, or maybe you had one of those assignments that they just it didn't work out as well as you had hoped the first time around, you're going to give it another try, you can come in and put in your assignment, but then also say, I don't want this to count toward the final grade for my students. The next area down here is your class and student area. What's great about this is, let's say you have common preps. Maybe I teach 2 different English classes. And so what I can do is click on the pencil, and then I can select multiple classes for this assignment to go to simultaneously, which is great. I'm just going to leave mine in my homeroom class for now. Under here is where you can associate your standards that are being measured as part of this assignment. I'm going to use this standard right here, listens and follows directions. Now once you add standards to your assignment, this box here now becomes available to be checked, the auto-calculate standard scores. Now I want to use a little bit of caution here. It is a fantastic feature. However, it is also not exactly the best thing if you're going to be measuring multiple standards on one assignment. It's great if you're just measuring one because you can say, okay, auto-calculate standard scores, and when I go to put in whatever score my students got out of 25, it'll automatically associate the 1, 2, 3, 4 standard score with the standard that's associated with this assignment. If, however, maybe it was something where I was doing let's say an exam, and I had multiple standards that I was measuring, and I click auto calculate standard scores, I would put in a score on my example test, and every single standard that was associated to that exam assignment would be then scored with the exact same 1, 2, 3, or 4 scale. This can be somewhat flawed because it's possible that in that exam I measured listens to and follows directions 3 times, and then I measured, let me think of another standard here that I had, solves problems with peers independently, and there were different amounts of questions for each one of those different standards to be measured. Just because my student got a 85 on the test doesn't mean that they have fully conquered listening to and following directions or one of the other standards that I was measuring. Sometimes it's possible for those different standards to have different scores, especially when there's multiple ones on the same assignment type. So I hope I've kind of made that somewhat clear. I know that's a little bit difficult to reason through sometimes, but it is great to use auto-calculate standard scores, but we want to recommend that you only do it if you're measuring just one single standard for the assignment. We would not recommend using auto-calculate standard scores in the case that you are measuring more than multiple standards in the assignment. Now, one other thing I want to point out before I save, and that is where I mentioned that you can do the assignment across different classes. You can also do it for different students, and that's found underneath this area as well. So in my homeroom, right now it's selected as all students, and that's by default, which is typical for most of our grades. When we put assignments in, we want them to go to every student in our class. But sometimes we have students with accommodations or students that need to be excluded from certain assignments. And if that's the case, I can click on the little arrow here and I will see my list of students, and I can simply uncheck the box for any student I wish to exclude from this assignment. So now, instead of all students, this assignment is only going to pertain to 18 of my students. One other thing that's great, you see the Save button down here. Then there's Save and Duplicate. Save and Duplicate is great if you're going to be doing a lot of repetitive style assignments, because you can come in and say Save and Duplicate, and it brings all of these details over into a duplicate assignment, and then you can just change the due date or adjust. Maybe instead of workbook page 25, I could say Save and Duplicate. So I can hit Save and Duplicate, and once it creates the copy, then I can just say, okay, instead of workbook page 25, maybe it's workbook page 28. And maybe I do workbook pages always as being 25 points, so I can just say Save and Duplicate, and it's wonderful because I can just come up and make small adjustments instead of having to retype in and reset all of these adjustments that I made for this particular assignment. That's everything that you need as far as being able to create the assignment. Now I just need to save it. Once you input the assignment, you'll be taken back to your PowerSchool Unified Classroom main screen. And if you're ready to start putting in scores for your assignments, you can go, sometimes you'll see in the recent assignments area right here, where you can click and you can click View Scores. Looks like a little calculator icon when you click on it. Once the screen loads for you, you can come right here to your first student, click on the first score, and this should look very familiar for those of you who used PowerSchool with us last year. We've got the score input screen where you can type in or you can click and use the dial pad. You'll notice that my assignment is purple and kind of italicized for scores. Now, the reason for that is this assignment, when I saved it, it's not going to count in final grade. And so this is one way, it's a little indicator to tell you that this score is actually going to be exempt from final grade. One of the other features I wanted to show you was the vertical fill button. I'm going to show you that here in a minute, but I'm going to go through and give some of my students less than the maximum score. So I'm going through and saying these students got these scores. Okay, now let's say everybody else did really well and everybody else got a 25. So I'm going to say 25, and then I'm going to use this vertical fill button. And what's wonderful is it's going to update all the scores that were blank at the time that I hit that button. And you'll notice it didn't overwrite my 18, it didn't overwrite my 20, it didn't overwrite my 21, it didn't overwrite my 19. It will only fill in for cells that were blank at the time that you push the vertical fill button. So it's fantastic, great little time-saving tip. Love it. And then you can come down, save scores. And once that saves, you're all done. There you go. You've put in your first assignment and your first grades into your new Unified Classroom gradebook. Thank you very much for watching. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.